Greetings, I'm the man behind the mask, and I'd like to talk to you about hockey. Yes, let's talk about hockey, the show that journeys through the history of the sport of ice hockey from its disputed origins to the game we see today. Now, with a sport like hockey, there have been countless tough guys, goons, and teams that many feel belonged behind bars. But in the 1950s, the Detroit Red Wings entered a match against a team of players that just so happened to also be tenants of the Marquette prison in Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
The story of this unusual match begins in the late 1920s, when Jack Adams arrived in the Motor City as the new coach of the Detroit Cougars. After his arrival, it wasn't long before he made the acquaintance of Ray Bernstein, Irving Milberg, and Harry Keywell, the ringleaders of the notorious bootleggers the local press had dubbed the Purple Gang. These men were known as flashy dressers, big spenders, and avid sportsmen. Luckily, though, Adams had enough sense to just smile, shake hands, and politely decline all invitations to join the boys for a night out on the town. However, even after several Purples were sent to prison in 1931, the gangsters' influence still extended beyond prison walls, as witnessed by the baseball-loving Bernstein's ability to convince Tigers star Hank Greenberg to play an exhibition game at Jackson State Prison. However, for their suspected roles in the murder of Senator Warren G. Hooper in 1945, the Purples were shipped off to Marquette Prison, also known as the Alcatraz of the North.
It was here in 1953 that while touring the prison grounds as a guest of Warden Emery Jacques, Jack Adams, now the Red Wings general manager, unexpectedly ran into a pair of old acquaintances, Bernstein and Keywell, both of whom inquired about Adams bringing the Red Wings up to the prison for a scrimmage someday. Realizing that the prison had no facility or team, Adams said sure, no problem, and after returning to Detroit, quickly forgot the matter.
But unbeknownst to Adams, the warden was in the process of hiring former U of M hockey star Okie Brum as the prison's first athletic director. Brum recalls that upon his arrival, all he heard from the inmates was that the Red Wings were coming, and all he could think of was how he was going to get any kind of team together to play them. Since Marquette was designed for older prisoners, with the youngest age allowed there being 28, most of the inmates that made the cut were in their 30s or 40s, few could actually skate well, and those without barking ankles exhibited minimum hockey skills. Add to that Brum had to fight to get his players hockey sticks, since the prison had disallowed them in fear that the prisoners would use the sticks to attack the guards or each other. Brum then used his construction know-how and building materials donated by his father to erect a regulation-size walled rink in the corner of the prison yard, something that no other prison in the country had ever had. Adams was kept in the loop of Brum's progress, and even donated the equipment of the Omaha Knights, which had just ceased being a Wings farm club, once he learned that the inmates were in need of their own equipment.
At this point, Adams may very well have regretted ever having met the Purple Gang, or making such an off-the-cuff remark about his Wings playing Marquette's inmates in front of a courtyard of prisoners. But true to his word, on the morning of February 2nd, 1954, the entire Red Wings team arrived at Marquette County Airport, and after checking into the Northland Hotel and enjoying a light lunch, the Red Wings were taken to the old brownstone prison.
Adams, understandably, received some criticism concerning this game, as it was one thing to fight at the Olympia against other real hockey players, But another matter entirely if a fight broke out on the ice at Marquette Prison against someone who had already probably killed a couple of people. Not to mention being surrounded by hundreds of the toughest, most volatile fans in the country. However, when the Wings skated onto the ice after dressing in the carpenter's shack and getting patted down by the guards, the shouts of encouragement and recognition they received from the 600-some-odd assembled cons quickly put their fears to rest. Dutch Rybel, centering a line that included Howe and Lindsay, took the opening face-off, and for the first several minutes the Wings freely passed the puck back and forth several times, skating around the cons as if they were pylons. Then, after about another minute of this impressive stick work, the Wings finally popped the puck past the Cons goalie, Bugsy Wizaki, a habitual thief who was released from solitary so he could play in this game. After about 10 minutes, the Wings led 10-0, and after the 15-minute mark was passed, it was 15-0. Wings goalie Terry Sawchuk became so bored by the inactivity at his end that he sat himself atop his net. Then, when he saw the puck finally coming his way, he raced up to it and took it halfway down the ice himself. After several more minutes of inactivity, Sawchuk then deliberately tripped one of the con players so he could be sent to the penalty box to sign a few autographs. At one point, Ted Lindsay handed the puck to the Con's best player, Ed Riley, and told him to go man go. Having been embarrassed enough, Riley looked Terrible Ted square in the face and said, "F*** you, Ted, I ain't going," earning roars of laughter from anyone within earshot. Later, when some of the Wings donned the Con's green jerseys to even up the sides, Lindsay skated up to where the prison officials were seated and in his best James Cagney impersonation said, "We'll win this one, see? And be out of here in 2 years."
After the first period ended with the Wings on top 18-0, no one bothered to keep score any longer. Plus, everyone was also too engrossed watching the skills exhibition that the Wings were putting on, that had the Cons on the ice, standing in their tracks, leaning on their sticks, and whistling in admiration. Once the exhibition was over, Brum announced, "They've won the Stanley Cup and a lot of other big prizes, but now the Red Wings will receive an award no other hockey team can ever claim."
With that, he handed Adams and coach Tommy Ivan a honey bucket, which was the term for a refuse pail prisoners used in their cells in lieu of toilets. Adams replied with, "This is a great day. I'm proud to have such a fine farm team up here in the north. The only trouble is, you guys made it tough for me to recruit any of you." It would be 10 weeks after this unusual game that the Red Wings would defeat the Montreal Canadiens to win their third Stanley Cup of the decade. And the following year they would go on to win a fourth, cheered on by the residents of the largest penalty box in Michigan.